We are live. I am so honored and thrilled to have Dr. Edward, the healing vet, all the way from Australia. It's early morning. I didn't even ask you what time it is. Is it 7 a.m., 8 a.m.?
9 a.m. I've
9
already.
a.m. Okay, a little bit off. Well, I'm in California, so it's 4 p.m. And such an honor because he has interviewed me twice now. So, one for my appearance on the upcoming Dog Anxiety Summit, where Dr. Edward is the host. And I'm just so honored to be on this esteemed panel. I'll let him tell you about the panel. And also, we did a kind of a preview. What would you call that with the three of us?
What we call the kickoff party, which is
A
sort
kickoff
of like
party, right?
a little
Right.
little panel just before we get into all the information. Yeah, so thanks so much for having me here today, Lisa. I'm really excited to be talking to you again, and really excited about sharing all about the Dog Anxiety Summit because I invited Lisa to come and be an expert speaker on the summit because she's got a really unique way to help anxious animals with music. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So if you're watching on Lisa's YouTube channel and you've never come across her animal music, you are going to be in for a treat. And yeah, we're going to talk all things dog anxiety for a little while this morning, aren't we?
We are, or this evening or this afternoon, depending on where you are. For anyone
Today.
viewing on Facebook, we're streaming in StreamYard. So if you want to know if you want to post a comment and you want me to know who you are, then give StreamYard your permission to do that. So I want to ask you, Dr. Edward, before you get to the esteemed panel of all the presenters you have in the Dog Anxiety Summit going on September 2nd through 7th. You are very experienced at presenting summits, everything from canine nutrition to a variety of things. What, tell me, why are you doing a dog anxiety summit? And of course, this is my field, so I just love the specialty of that. But what brought you to that?
Well, I've sort of always been interested in working with animals. I grew up on a cattle property or a ranch for you American people, here in Australia, where we had, maybe five to 7,000 head of cattle, depending on the seasons. And we did all our cattle work on horseback. We bred and trained horses, competed on horses in camp drafting, which is kind of a little bit like cutting, but different, for you American people. So I've always had this real passion for working with animals. So in my teenage years, I was just completely crazy about horses. And I came across the work of Monty Roberts at that time, who wrote the book, The Man Who Listens to Horses. And that was where I first got this idea of how you can work with animals, communicate with them in their language, and build a partnership and a relationship where the animal wants to work with you because they understand what's going on rather than the old school way of using force and pain and fear to make animals do things. So that was sort of the first thing. Then after I graduated as a veterinarian, I started working a lot with hands-on work with neck pain, back pain, and soft tissue pain. I got really interested in therapeutic touch, and over the years, I realized that there's some kinds of touch that cause a really profound body level relaxation in animals. And I started playing around with applying this to treating anxious dogs mostly, but cats as well, and it can be applied to any animal. So, for instance, I had a staffy come to me 3 or 4 years ago, Clyde. He's built like a tank. And Clyde had severe separation anxiety. He was eating the house when left alone and had even was torn two doors off the hinges, which shows you something, two things. One, how strong he was, and two, how distressed he was. But 2 weeks of this therapeutic touch approach and all that behavior was gone. In fact, he wasn't even getting off his bed some days when his mum came home. So I work a lot with anxious animals in practice. I've got a real passion for working with behavior and training issues. And I got invited to speak on another summit with the Pet Summits crew. And I went and looked at their future catalogue. and there was this anxiety summit with no host. I thought, wow, that looks like something that I could get really excited and passionate about. So I contacted them and said, hey, I'd love to host this summit because I've got a real passion for this work. And, you know, it's been 6 months of a lot of work because we had
I
to find
know.
and all the speakers and work out exactly what topics each person was going to talk about and record all the interviews. And now we're doing these little live shows because I want to connect with all of you, Lisa's beautiful community of people who love dogs and want to help their dogs. And I want to get you inspired and excited to come along and join us on this summit because we have got 20 world-leading expert speakers. We've got holistic veterinarians. We've got complementary and alternative practitioners like Lisa and others who do things like animal communication, energy healing, flower essences, all sorts of things. We've got a number of really skilled, world-leading positive reinforcement trainers, and we've even got a board-certified veterinary behaviour specialist who's speaking at this summit. So,
And I know there
my
aren't too many of those. I mean, you know, not that many
no, they're
exist.
not. So,
Yeah.
it's a real honour to have Dr. Packle with us because I want to get the whole spectrum right. You know, I believe if you're going to take a holistic approach, you absolutely have to consider all the possibilities. And I know from my experience of having a lot of people come to me who are very passionate about holistic and alternative treatments, some of them can be a bit like, I'll do anything, but I won't give my dog prescription medicines, no matter what. And sometimes that attitude can actually harm your dogs, I think. Some of these animals do get the best outcomes with the right kind of
Right.
medications.
Right. Well, a holistic approach is a holistic approach,
Yeah.
right? So tell us, I know you said you learned so much with speaking to some of the presenters, and tell us like what anything that surprised you in the interviews.
Um, I think what surprised me was how many things I learned from all these people that I didn't know, even though I've been a veterinarian for, 27 years and probably had a really strong holistic integrative focus for 10 or 15 years. So I was just amazed that, wow, there's so much more to learn about all these different approaches, and even some of the things that I use, I learned new ways to apply them or new little tweaks that would make how I use them better. So, I think that's exciting because if I learned a whole lot from all these speakers and I'm an experienced vet, imagine how much you might learn from coming to join us. And it's totally free to come live too, by the way. So there's absolutely no reason not to come and do it. Of course, if you want lifetime access, there is an affordable upgrade investment, and I strongly encourage you to do that because uh, quite a lot of these presentations are what you might call information dense, and you will definitely want to watch them more than once or twice, I think, to get the full benefit from them.
Right, because there's just so much information to take in, but I love the way that the summit from September 2nd through 7th is segmented. So each day is a different theme. So can you tell us about those themes?
I can. In fact, what we might do is we'll go through the 4 days, and I'll talk about the theme and share with you who all the speakers are and their topics for each day. Yeah.
Sure, great.
So day one, which will be on the 2nd of September, is the theme is understanding anxiety in dogs. I'll be speaking about how I understand anxiety as a simple way to understand anxiety is that it's arousal with nowhere to go. So these animals get stuck in a fight flight mode and they've lost the ability to regulate back to healthy relaxation. We've got Dr. Ava Freak, who is another holistic integrated veterinarian. She's going to be talking about getting to the why of anxiety and sharing a novel treatment approach that she's developed in her many years of veterinary practice. We've got Dr. Christina Chambreau, who's talking about understanding and resolving human and environmental triggers, that the things that can trigger the anxiety response in your anxious dogs. I've got Dr. Janet Reich, who is talking about separation anxiety, and in particular, she has got a lot of expertise in using essential oils. And she's going to talk about what kinds of essential oils she uses to help anxious dogs. We've got Anna Maria Vasquez, who's a more alternative complementary practitioner. She does animal communication and energy healing, things like that. She's going to be talking about the topic is everything is energy, anxiety in dogs and the energetics behind it. And our final speaker on day one is Laurie Edge Hughes, who's a very skilled physiotherapist. She's going to be talking about sensory integration issues and anxiety in dogs, and how we can work with integration of the senses and various practices to help anxious dogs. So that's day one.
And I'm sure those speakers will cover a really basic concept I have found that so many people don't always often recognize when their dogs have anxiety, because sometimes those signs are so subtle, and you just are so familiar, your dog lives with you. You're so familiar with everything that it's hard to recognize the little subtle changes. So I'm sure there'll be some conversation
Yes,
around that too.
yes. And we could just very quickly touch on there's 4 expressions of anxiety that we generally see in dogs. There's the fight. They're the ones that kind of and come at you, lunging, barking on the lead, that kind of reactivity. There's the flee. They're the ones that are running away, trying to, if thunderstorm, they might bolt, or if they're in the vet clinic, they'll be trying to hide under the chair. Number 3 is freeze. So if you ever have a dog that goes into a situation which might be stressful or something different, and you see them go into this still state, that's actually a sign of anxiety that a lot of people don't recognize.
So I don't know if you can see my rest in peace dog up here. I'm going to move this a little bit. Sanchez. That happened to him. He was about 7 when he got attacked. And then after that, he started freezing on trail walks when other dogs were coming, and he would just need his space. And it took about 5-10 minutes for check it out. And once he did, it was fine, but he definitely froze. And that was behavior that didn't so stress sometimes does happen by environmental change, and that happened to him, and it really never left him. Yeah.
So that freeze response, I saw a puppy the other week that is going to end up biting someone. Very anxious on the first vet visit at 8 or 12 weeks or whatever. Tried to bite me, and I did a follow-up email with these people, and they said, well, this puppy's kind of reactive when he's out on his own on the lead and stuff, but he's actually pretty good when there's lots going on. And I thought, that puppy's freezing. And I emailed back to them, and they're just not listening. They're not getting it. And it came in and saw a locum vet last week, and very aggressive. Couldn't touch the puppy at all. Super anxious, super aroused and
Such a
reactive.
critical age. Yeah.
Yeah, really critical age. But the 4th place, so people miss freeze. Bite and flight are easy to see. People miss the freeze sometimes or don't know what it is, but the 4th one is the fidget. Now, they're the dogs that when someone comes to visit, they go absolute nutso and jump all over everyone and won't listen. When they come into the vet clinic, they're running around, jumping up on the bench and, jumping on people, sniffing everywhere, super active and aroused. So people often think, oh, wow, they're just happy and playful. Whereas actually that is a real face of anxiety.
That's very common that people would miss that. I would see why it's easy to miss. Yeah. Or misdiagnose.
Let's dig into day 2, which is alternative and holistic options for healing anxiety. So we've got Dr. Jean Hoffey, who's another holistic integrative veterinarian. She's going to be talking about how she uses flower essences to help anxious dogs. Then we've got your beautiful host here, Lisa Spector. And Lisa has developed, partly through having a severe injury that sort of made you explore the lower end of the piano, yeah?
Yeah.
So Lisa's developed this whole kind of beautiful piano music that is not only has a relaxing effect for anxious animals, but helps the humans as well. And we dig right into that. We won't give too much away here on this little live call, but Lisa plays a bit of the music, and we talk about how and why that particular kind of music helps anxious dogs. We've got Dr. Kara Gubbins, a friend of mine and a leading animal communication teacher. She's talking about how animal communication can and can't help dogs with anxiety. We've got Dr. Barry Sands, who's talking about creating harmony and coherence within yourself to support your anxious pets. And we've got Jed Davis from Polypet Products, who's one of our beautiful sponsors. They've got a beautiful line of supplements that can help all pets and anxious pets. He's talking about reducing anxiety, an objective approach to a stress-free pet. Then on day 3, we dive into dog training and socialization, behavior modification approaches. We've got Dr. Ian Dunbar, who is talking about fear periods and developmental stages in puppies. And what he's really talking about is that he thinks that fear periods actually don't exist if you socialize puppies properly.
How interesting. I have both of my sisters recently got adopted puppies, so I'm going to have them watch.
Yeah, definitely have them watch. Ian's a fantastic speaker.
I know. I've met him personally. Yeah, he's very dynamic. Yeah.
He's a bit of a larrikin, I would say.
Yeah, yeah.
Teode Anderson is another positive reinforcement trainer. In fact, all of these people are positive reinforcement trainers. She's talking about why using aversives in training makes anxiety worse, and why you should avoid any kind of aversive training methods, which the most extreme of are prong collars and shock collars, that sort of thing. Kamal Fernandez is going to talk about positive reinforcement and behavior modification for anxiety. We've got Ness Jones, who's another trainer who's got a particular expertise and done a lot of study on helping dogs with separation anxiety. So we talk about that.
Great.
We go into the whole thresholds and zones and managing that kind of thing with your animals.
She was actually a presenter in my Doggone Calm Club, and it was just, oh my God, her expertise and her knowledge of separation anxiety, and it's not always what we think. It really was interesting.
Yeah, no, she's awesome. I really, really enjoyed talking to her too. Then day 4, we're digging into veterinary treatment of anxiety. We've got Dr. Alex Avery, who's an integrated veterinarian from New Zealand. I interviewed him about why it is so important to have a thorough veterinary examination and workup to make sure you're not missing undiagnosed pain or undiagnosed conditions that can be causing or contributing to anxiety. Because if you don't find those underlying things, if they're there, sometimes treatment doesn't work very well or at all. We've got Dr. Christopher Packle, who I'm so excited to have Dr. Christopher on this summit, because he is a board certified veterinary behavior expert. He's talking about veterinary prescription medications, when and why they may be needed. And he's a very holistically minded practitioner. It was a really interesting, broad-ranging interview with him. We've got Dr. Matthew Muir from Australia. He's talking about integrated medicine, some herbs that you can use, and diet for anxiety. We've got Dr. Charisse Roth, who is a veterinarian who's going to be talking about a different angle, which is veterinary anxiety and anxiety and stress in all the pet wellness professionals and practitioners you might be interacting with, and talking about how we can support our professionals so that they can be calmer and happier and therefore be able to help us better. I'll be talking on day 4 about healing anxiety with intentional touch, which, as I touched on before, is something that I've been lucky enough to sort of stumble upon and then develop further in my work. Pretty keen in the next couple of years to see if I can do some research and get some peer-reviewed research out there.
That would be groundbreaking and much needed. Yeah.
Well, it would be groundbreaking, and it's something, it's not easy to do research just quietly. It takes
I know all
quite a
about it.
thing. But I've
Takes
got a
years. Yeah.
I've, I've got an ex-partner who has a doctorate and was a research scientist for many years. She's going to help me get things rolling and make sure that I get the experiment design and all that sort of thing sorted out. So that's going to be exciting. Then our final speaker on day 4 is Dr. Fossum, who's also a board certified specialist, but she's actually a specialist surgeon. And she's going to be talking about CBD, cannabis, as a treatment for anxiety, because she's found a passion for that particular herbal medicine, in addition to her long-term high-level expertise in surgery. She's literally written the textbook on surgery for small animal stuff.
Wow, that's an unusual combination. That's fabulous.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Great lineup of speakers. I can't wait to actually hear it myself. So, if anyone just joined us, Dr. Edward, the Healing Vet, is talking about the Dog Anxiety Summit coming up September 2nd through 7th. And depending on where you're watching this on Facebook, and on YouTube later, I will provide the link where you can get a free pass to this to listen to these
Yeah.
interviews and my piano playing. I think I'm the only one who provides
Yes, you
music.
are definitely playing a little bit of music. And look, yeah, look for the link. You can register now for the live sessions. You can attend for free over the weekend, the 4 days over the second to the 7th, or something
So
like
in the
that.
States, that's Labor Day weekend. So, generally people are hanging out at home. Um, Tell us about some of the goodies they can get if they register early.
Well, for a start, you'll get instant access to my first talk, which is about anxiety, simply arousal with nowhere to go. And there is quite a few other free little goodies, which I am not can't remember them all, but there's a couple of awesome ebooks. There's an ebook from me, which is about 4,000 or 5,000 words, which is understanding and treating anxiety holistically is the focus of that book. So that's kind of a brain dump from me of all my ideas about how to understand how anxiety works and how it goes on. You can join us for no charge if you attend live. All the presentations for each day will be available for the 24 hours for you to watch. But I do invite you to consider taking the upgrade, because you will want to go back and watch these again. I was blown away by the depth and intensity of information in these presentations. So it's just a little bit extra, but it will give you all the time to go back and review. And when you've got an anxious dog, one of the things I've found with treating anxious dogs is that you're going to need to try a range of interventions to find which interventions work, and then you're probably going to have to tinker
Right.
around even then to work out which combination is just the best. And
Exactly.
as your dog progresses and maybe gets a little bit better, you might need to bring in new things and drop one or two things. So having the ability to go back and have this at your fingertips in the future, if you've got an anxious dog, I think is incredibly valuable.
And the other thing to remember is we were talking about this with a fabulous trainer, Karen Lyles, in the Doggone Calm Club yesterday, is that very frequently, I'm guessing you have the same experience, Dr. Edward. You might have a younger dog who really isn't exhibiting anxiety, but things happen middle life, and particularly in senior years, where very subtle anxiety exhibits show up later on. So there are ways you can actually prevent canine anxiety. So am I correct in saying that?
Absolutely, there is a lot of things you can do to well, you learn a lot in this summit about things that can help you care for your dog better, so that the chances of anxiety developing are less. You'll also learn how to start seeing the subtle signs so that you can act early if something happens and they do start developing anxiety. The sooner you act, and if you act while the problem is still small, your chances of being able to do something meaningful to help that dog quickly are going to be far greater than if you go, oh, you know, they've been, often people come in and I talk to them, and it's like, when I really dig into the history, this dog's actually had some kind of anxiety for years. And suddenly something else has happened that has taken that anxiety to a
Right.
higher level. And suddenly now it's a problem for the human. So they're doing something about it.
Right. And oftentimes it could be a rescue dog they adopted 5 years ago, and they just think, they love the dog. They're just like, "Well, he came with us. This is how it is." It doesn't have to be how it is. There are natural solutions, and there's wonderful solutions you're gonna hear in this summit. And I will share, because in my interview with Dr. Edward, not only I'm playing piano, I'm actually educating you on how to create a sound dog-friendly home, a
Oh, that,
sound-friendly
yes, yes,
canine
yes.
household, which is so important and so many people miss, including trainers. And every year it gets a little worse with beeps and technology and all the noise, and it sometimes becomes invisible to us, but our dogs, whose hearing is so much better than ours, they just hear so much more. And even like, I unplugged the Bluetooth. The Bluetooth has this little buzz going on. I'd only plug it in when I'm using it because I have an older dog and I don't want that. I just notice little subtle things. So I'm going to be educating viewers in that too.
Yes. And I just added that into my notes here so that I can make sure that I tell everyone that that's the focus, because it is actually an incredibly important focus. I know that, so I'm a musician as well. I'm a singer-songwriter and performer, and I'm extraordinarily sensitive to sound, which is probably part of my beautiful sensory awareness in being on the spectrum as well. That I have that more than most people, so I can appreciate more than most people how sounds can affect our animals really profoundly and adversely. And we dig into Lisa's talk about help you gain an appreciation of just how much more sensitive your animal's hearing is than yours, and how to do a sound audit on your house, and a whole lot of other cool stuff. So come and join us. I'll also be doing a live Q&A on each day of the live presentation, so you can ask me any questions you like about your anxious dogs, about the presentations that have been on that day, anything dog anxiety related at all. I will be there live for you to talk to as well.
Fabulous. Tell us also, before we close, when is the kickoff party that I was part of, the kickoff interview?
The kickoff party, I think, will be on, let me have a little look at my notes here, will
So that
be on the day before we start. So it'll be on the 1st of September.
Good. That was such an interesting conversation. That was great.
It
So you won't,
was.
yeah.
You were on the panel for that, yes, and super cool fun talking with the three of you about all the different ways to look at anxiety. But the other thing I'm going to do before we wrap up is I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. Well, I'm not going to ask you to do me a favor. I'm going to ask you to do all the beautiful dogs in the world that might be connected to you through your friends and family and stuff like that. Please let everyone know that this summit is on, because honestly, if someone's struggling with an anxious dog, this summit could be the difference between that dog literally living and dying. I know that sounds a bit dramatic, but I have had to euthanize animals because of behavior issues and anxiety issues. And, someone might be just have a dog that they don't realize is anxious. And if they watch this summit, it could change that dog's whole trajectory from developing severe anxiety and living an extreme life of distress and suffering to the people being able to go, oh, okay, let's do something to help this dog. So Mitzi here is saying to you, come on, come and join us, and please tell your friends.
Mitzi's
Share the
saying, I'll
word.
be there. I'll be tuning in, watching.
Well, Mitzi will be
So,
on the Q&As answering your questions with me.
Dear Mitzi, right? So thank you so much, Dr. Edward. Thank you, Mitzi, for making an appearance. I really look forward to experiencing the whole summit myself, and it's just been an honor, really a true honor, being with this esteemed panel of dog professionals helping us dog lovers with anxiety issues with our dogs in such a natural, beautiful, healing, and simple way. So thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Well, thank you. You know, I'm honored to have you on the team because you're awesome too, and your work's awesome.
Thank you so much. Kisses to Mitzi from me.
Oh, Mitzi said that's cool. I'll take them and pats.
Great.
Okay, see you later, everybody.
And once again, the link to sign up for the free summit is below the video. So you'll find it there. Thank you so much. We'll see you in the summit. Thanks, Dr.
Okay,
Edward. Okay, bye-bye.
bye.